Hi everyone and welcome. Today I want to talk about women and weightlifting and why, if you're a woman or anyone actually, frankly, why you should be lifting heavy weights. So, first, I just want to encourage you to already give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel and share it with all the women that you know, whether they think that they need to lift or not. My chances are that they do need to lift because I believe that pretty much anyone on this planet would benefit from having an increased muscle mass. So let's just start with defining what lifting heavy actually means, because this is very subjective. And it has to be, because we can't put a definite measure on how much heavy is, where is heavy. Totally depends on who you are. It depends on your lifting experience, your current strength level, etc. So heavy is whatever you consider heavy to be. Then it's probably heavy. Now, the problem is that some people think that a bottle of water is heavy, but actually it's not even heavy for most people unless you're a very small child. So if you go to the gym and you do a set of, let's say, 10 repetitions on a certain weight, and you think that was heavy, but you could have kept going with some willpower, it's probably not that heavy. Now, if you haven't been exercising ever or for a very long time, you will still get some benefit of this kind of heavy, but you need to move away from that fairly quickly. So I generally liked to look at heavy as something that you can't do more than maybe 7-8 repetitions of properly without starting to cheat and, missing out on your form, etc. in the gym. Then I think that is probably a weight that is heavy for you. There is a lot of mental work involved in this as well. Some of us have a very low pain tolerance for lifting weights, heavy weights, before we think that, oh my god, that is too heavy, I have to stop. Some people can push through much easier than other people, so that's also a factor. But in general, let's say you can do 7 repetitions of something and that is your max, then that actually does count as heavy. And the reason that we want to focus on heavy, or how heavy something is that it needs to be heavy enough for you to force your body to adapt to this weight. If it's not that heavy, you will not get a change, you will not get an increased muscle strength, nothing will happen. So it's really important that we get things to happen. So I think I mentioned this before, but whenever you go to the gym, you lift a heavy weight, for example, or you do any kind of exercise, what is happening is that you're literally ripping your muscle fibers apart. You are doing a lot of damage to your muscles because they are not strong enough to lift that specific weight. So what is happening then when you're resting is that your body will start healing. So we'll start repairing your muscles, and it's like if you had a bridge and a wave washed over that bridge, say, and it broke, you wouldn't just rebuild that bridge to the same level, to the same standard. You will make it stronger so that the next time the wave comes, the bridge will still be there. And that's what your muscles are doing. They're not going to rebuild to the same level as they were. They're going to rebuild and get stronger. And that's why the rest and the sleep is so important when you are building muscle, because that allows your body to do this. It allows it to repair your muscles and reinforce everything and make it stronger. And at some point this is going to stop occurring, and this is when we are usually plateauing. We don't see any increase in muscle mass, and that is because this is no longer considered heavy, so we're not getting this adaptive response. And that is why it's so important to get what we call progressive overload, and that means that you are gradually, over time, increasing your weights. Or it could be increase in volume, it could be increase in intensity, in frequency of training, etc. You need to do something to make it harder for yourself to make sure that it's heavy for you. So let's say I am squatting 50 kilos. I only have 2.5 kilo weights at the gym, so, or let's say 1.25, because most gyms have that. So I can't go up to 51 kilo. I have to go up from 50 to 52.5, and I can't really do that. So how do I keep progressing? I do something else. That means that I might be squatting more often. It might be that I'm increasing the amount of repetitions that I'm doing, or the intensity with which I'm doing it. So that could be I might be adding, something else, that maybe jumping, or I might slow down and I might do the slow squats that if you were watching my interview with Nick, we do something super slowly so that you get that neurological adaptation happening as well. And all of these things will keep you moving forward because it makes it much harder for you to do. So you're still breaking down your muscles, and then you get the repair, they get stronger, and eventually you can jump from 50 to 52.5. Just go down in the amount of repetitions that you do again, but you find you're finally there, and that's how we're doing it when we're building strength. So I only recommend increasing the volume when you cannot move up in weights without doing it, because high volume is usually, I prefer to use lower volume and higher weights generally. I think that is much better for you. So it's important that when you have a gym program that you keep changing things, and if you haven't been, if you have a personal trainer, they will do it for you. If you do it yourself, as soon as you hit a plateau and nothing is happening, you need to start switching things up. So let's get into this a little bit. So to this day, I was kind of hoping for a time when this wouldn't happen anymore, but to this day, women are still afraid that they will get bulky and they will look masculine if they lift too heavy. And I don't know how many times in my life I have heard women tell me that I don't want to build big muscles, I just want to tone. And I hate that term. I absolutely hate the term toning, because it's associated with lifting ridiculously low weights. 2 kilo dumbbells, I'm gonna do bicep curls with them. It's gonna do absolutely nothing for you. The only thing it's going to do is burn a few calories in the moment that you're doing it, but you will not get any other benefit from doing that. The only time, so toning generally means that women want the muscles to be visible, but they don't want them to be too big, and they want to lose some fat mass. And you can do that by lifting heavy. Now, if you're lifting really heavy for several years, yes, you might put on some muscle mass. But the thing is that unless you're using steroids or something like that, it will be close to impossible for a woman to put on a ton of muscle, even if she's a powerlifter, for example. Generally, women have an easy time putting on more muscle in the leg department rather than the upper body department. And if this is the case and you feel like, oh my god, my legs are getting really big, maybe you want to, slow down a little bit. Maybe that's enough then. But to get to that stage actually takes quite some time. Now, there is a genetic component here. Some women are naturally easier building muscle, etc. So you might want to watch that. But in general, getting big and bulky is not happening for the majority of people. So I just want you to have a look at this girl here. So this is Whitney Simmons, I think her name is, and she's a Fitspo, well, fitness inspiration. You can think whatever you want about fitness inspirations. She has millions of followers on YouTube, and I can't see her weights exactly, but they do not look like 15 kilo plates to me. They rather look like 20 or 25 kilos. So let's be conservative and say that they are 20 kilo weights. That means that she's squatting 100 kilos, and this woman weighs just over 50 kilos. And I have checked this out, just to be sure. And it looks easy. It looks really easy when she's doing it. So what is her maximum? How much can she actually squat, this woman? She's saying that she's squatting 4 sets of 8 repetitions. So it is entirely possible that she can actually squat 3 times her body weight, which is really damn impressive if you ask me. Does she have big legs? I don't think so. I think they look fabulous, and that's probably why she has millions of followers on YouTube. So how many of you can squat 3 times your body weight? I'm just wondering. So I don't think, she's not an exception. It's more people that actually do get really, really big legs that are the exception. I think she looks great. I mean, I would love to be able to squat 3 times my body weight. I'm trying to teach myself to squat 1 time my body weight this year. And that's going to feel like an accomplishment to me. So here are my 5 reasons for why I think that you should be lifting heavy if you are a woman and you want to look better and you want to live longer. So number 1 is that more muscle increases your basal metabolic rate, which means that the more muscle you have, the more energy you will burn, whether you are doing nothing or doing simple things like walking. Just a kilo of muscle in general burns roughly 3 times the amount of energy that a kilo of fat mass does. So clearly, muscle is a much more metabolically active tissue than fat is. So if you put on 5 kilo of muscle and you lose 5 kilos of fat, you're gonna make a huge difference to how your body is utilizing the energy that you're taking in. And just think about every time you use your muscles. So every time you go to the gym, you're going to burn 3 times more per kilo that you have swapped muscle for fat tissue, for example. So this is a really, really good way of, keeping your body metabolically active and metabolically healthy. Your body is renewing itself and restoring, and have to keep that up rather than just sitting there being a fat slob. So it's a very good way of actually, when you're aging, keeping your body at a metabolically more similar age to when you were younger, because usually that is declining when we're getting older. And number 2 is that if you use exercise as a way of staying in shape and burning calories, which I don't necessarily recommend that as a strategy. It's a good addition, but nutrition is so much more important. Then obviously lifting heavy is so much more efficient than doing any type of cardio. So when you are lifting heavy, what will happen, as I already described, you will break down your muscles and they will need repairing. So you are going to have an increased need for energy for quite some time after a gym session, and this can go on for more than a day. So your metabolism is actually going up for quite some time after a heavy lifting session. Whereas if you have been running, you might have been burning more calories while you were running, but then what happens is that once you stop, your body stops burning additional calories, and in many cases it will even go down and lower the basal metabolic rate, and just conserve the energy, because you have been doing something that has been spending a lot of energy that maybe your body doesn't think that you should be doing. And this resonates so much with me and what I have experienced in my life. Now, I can just tell you that I've always been quite a cold person. I've always been freezing when everyone else is fine. And normal conventional thyroid tests just say that I'm fine. So it could be that I have just been exercising too much in my life. I don't know. So it might be that it was just that I was doing too much cardio. I've never had this effect after being to the gym as far as I can remember. But I remember very often after doing spinning or after doing aerobics, I wasn't a huge runner, but I've been doing some biking, etc. You're so hot, and once you cool down, it's like you get the opposite effect. You get super cold, and I just need to pack on the clothes, and I can't really get warm, even if it's warm outside. So that's my experience anyway. Thirdly, body composition. So often when we say that we want to lose weight, what we mean is that we want to lose fat mass. We don't want to lose our muscle mass because we kind of like having that. It's very convenient. And if, let's say, you weigh 65 kilos, if you have more muscle mass, you will look so much better. And this is usually what we're after. We want to look toned. So if you don't have a lot of fat on you, all the muscle that you do have will be much more visible and will look really good. Having visible abs is not about building your abs into big muscles. It's about having a lower body fat percentage. So any sort of weight training will obviously help with this, because you can put on more weight and muscle weight, which will then burn energy, which is your stored fat, and you pretty much will swap it out a bit. Now, depending on what you're eating, there's obviously a limit to how much you're going to be swapping, etc. But if you get your diet dialed in as well, you're pretty much good to go. Number 4, anti-aging. And I'm saying this from... So what happens when we get old? Everyone pretty much knows and agrees that when we get old, we're losing muscle mass. After the age of 30, we're pretty much losing 3 to 5% of our lean muscle mass per decade. That's generally how it goes. We can prevent this by lifting heavy. So we don't have to, because you can often see that in old people, even young people. Like take an 18-year-old girl that never really exercised. They're kind of firm still. They have some muscle even though they haven't done anything specific to get those muscles. But if you're looking at an 80-year-old lady or gentleman or whatever, they can often look like there's bone, there's skin, and there might be an amount of fat there, but you can't see much muscle tone. And if you do see something, they are usually quite small, those muscles. And that's because they've atrophied over time, and they probably didn't work out in the gym. So what we want to do is that we want to ideally just keep our muscle mass for as long as possible. And even at the age of 70, you can start going to the gym and you can actually put muscle mass back on. So it's never ever too late to go and do that. So when I say that it's anti-aging, that means that you want to restore it to be more like a young and healthy body, because muscle mass will also help you with your hormonal balances, etc., and keep you at that state where you are much younger than your chronological age is telling you that you are. You can also prevent yourself from aging from a point of view where, I don't know how to put this, but let's say what often happens is that when you age and you lose muscle, and losing muscle usually means that you're losing some of your mobility, because if you don't have muscle enough to squat down, you're not going to squat, and then you're going to get stiff and you're not going to be using your muscles in this position, etc. So you're going to become quite immobile, and that is going to increase your risk for injuries, whether that be an injury when you're trying to lift something, you might get an injury even tying your shoelaces, or it might be an injury that you get because you're so stiff and immobile that when you are slipping on something, you might actually fall. And if you then have osteoporosis as well, you might break your hip bone, and all of a sudden you are in for a very long healing period where you can't do anything, you can't even walk, which is going to age you even faster. So it's kind of a downward spiral. So I think having enough muscle on your body and maintain it is super important if you want to feel and look young and healthy throughout your life. And that also goes for the bone density. When you are lifting heavy weights, you are putting stress on your bones, which will increase their density and prevent osteoporosis. So that's another thing that we can add to that. So that was actually, I should not mention it there because that's my 5th point, which is that it's really important for your bone density. So if you are old-ish and you have osteoporosis, the absolutely best thing you can do is to get some weights on and do heavy lifting. So you want to do something that is stressing your bones. So you want to be squatting with a bar, for example. What it does is that it's putting pressure on your spine. Obviously you want to have the capacity to keep your core strength up so that you're not just compressing your spine necessarily. It puts pressure on your legs, so all your bones that goes down there, etc. Swimming, for example, is not very good because it's good in terms of maybe mobility and maybe, using your muscles in a different kind of way, but you don't put any stress on your bones. So this is not going to give you that effect. So you need something that is actually putting pressure on there. So if you are pushing something, you might still be pushing against something, and that is putting pressure on as well. If you're pulling, you're not putting as much pressure on. So it's always better to push or having, work against the weight when you are thinking about it from a bone density point of view. And you can actually change or cure your osteoporosis within 6 to 8 months if you start going to the gym 2-3 times per week regularly for half a year or a little bit longer. Ta-da, magic, you're cured, bones are good. It obviously requires some healthy nutrition. Maybe it might be that you're not getting enough vitamin D as well and those kind of things, but even without that you can do a lot with just resistance training. So yeah, ladies, get into the gym and lift heavy. Lifting light weights will not give you the muscular stimulus, and it will not do anything for your bone density, and you will not get bulky. I know not everyone loves lifting heavy weights. I personally do. That's what I gravitate towards. But it's pretty damn good for you. So even if you just want to go once a week, I would say just do it, because it's so worth it, especially over time. You might not notice anything right now. Another thing that I haven't actually added here, but it just came to mind now, is that a lot of my clients in the past, when I used to work as a personal trainer, they usually actually told me one thing that we don't really think about, but is self-confidence. Often, it's more common that men go to the gym and do the weights and women wants to go in and do aerobics or spinning or something like that. But when we are getting stronger and we are capable of doing so much more than we usually think that we can do, because after all, we're in a society where, you know, if you want to be a gentleman, you should do all the heavy work, and the women should just hold back and let them do that and be a bit more feminine, maybe. And it's easy to think that we can't do things. And I'm not saying it's not fine to let the man do the manly things if you want to, but just know that you are strong enough and you are capable of actually doing those things yourself, and just know that for yourself is probably very good for your confidence. So just add that to the list, which was totally unplanned, but it's something that you want to bear in mind as well, that with your capability of lifting heavy weights, usually you get a whack of self-confidence as well. So yeah, that was pretty much everything I wanted to say today. And again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell as well, so that you will get a notification when I'm coming online every weekend to do my live streams, because it would be super awesome to have you there. I hope you found it slightly helpful, if not very helpful. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon again. Bye!